Let's take a look at the Korbanth MW1 lightsaber hilt. So this is a custom saber that is inspired by the Mace Windu Episode 1 lightsaber that's shown in the visual dictionary. It's actually not shown on screen, but that's where this overall kind of design, this is a custom saber, but this design was inspired by that. And something that's kind of interesting about this design is just with the radiator style emitter and then fins in the pommel area. So that is kind of a base design for several different character lightsabers. So this is actually also kind of like the Koon lightsaber. And if you swap those fins out for the gold ones and then this kind of gold pommel piece too, that would be the Luminara Unduli lightsaber. And there's actually several other Clone Wars era Jedi that use a saber that's roughly this design, sometimes with some minor differences. But yeah, so this is kind of one of those designs that really people maybe associate with the prequel trilogy, especially kind of the Clone Wars era there. Now, if we take a closer look, you can see that these fins are these separate pieces, and if you get the hilt kit like this, you have to attach the fins yourself. So I actually just have these sort of balanced in there. If I tip it over, they'll fall out. But all you have to do for that is use some super glue. So Korbanth recommends dabbing a little super glue on each end in order to attach it. And there are several of these sort of like ring pieces in the pommel area. And they slide around unless you actually have the fins attached there. At least these, let's see, these two do. So there's really several pieces to the pommel assembly on this particular hilt. But let's move to the top. So one of the features that I like about this hilt is it has hidden blade retention screws. So this sort of flared ring at the top in the emitter area, this unscrews and this piece hides several retention screws actually. So there's 3 blade retention screws. So you have some nice redundancy there for holding a blade in place. It is a 1-inch diameter blade holder there. Now we have these stacked rings below it to form this kind of radiator style emitter. And these are very smooth. So even though, you know, they look like they could potentially have edges, actually I've had this style hilt from some other companies before, and these were sharp, but not on this Korbanth version. So it's this really cool kind of stacked ring assembly. And then you can see in the space between the rings, it's sort of this grayish color. It's actually a little hard to see on camera. It's sort of a gunmetal gray, sort of a dark grayish color there, and it really kind of helps the hilt pop kind of in this section. So then we have some additional grooves here and switches. So we've got the black and the red switch. They're both knurled, and these can be used as switches if you install the hilt. So that's a nice feature. There's these little decorative domes on the side, and then also some additional detailing here, some thin grooves, this sort of rectangle, and then another groove around the middle, another rectangle too. Lower part of the hilt, we have a cover tech wheel. There's a screw in there, and I suppose you could cover that up if you wanted to with something. And then here is the pommel assembly. Again, it has all these pieces and you have to attach the fins yourself. And the base of the pommel is one of these pieces you can swap out too. So this is the silver one. I can swap it out for the gold one. And there's also this little black piece that can attach to the pommel, and it sort of obscures the sound holes a little bit. So let's just kind of make it look a little bit like the gold version. Oh, one of the things when you do install these fins, you need to have them line up. So this ring and the black ring and this part of the pommel all need to line up there. So the gold has a nice look too, gives it a little bit of a regal vibe. That's kind of one of the neat things with some of the hilts too, where you can just change something like the pommel and the fins, and it does give the hilt sort of a different flair. Maybe I'll do one more. Very cool. And, well, another thing I can demo real fast is there are, you know, some different pieces that this hilt breaks apart into several pieces. I showed you a few of them already. Pommel really comes apart into several different pieces. So the little portion on the end, this ring, that ring, another ring, and then the top of the pommel. Midsection of the hilt is the sort of longest part. Very smooth threading also. And then at the top, the Emitter Assembly has two pieces, so it has that ring at the top that kind of covers up the blade retention screws, and then the part below with the sort of stacked ring effect. So it comes apart into all these different pieces. I'll just put it back together and we'll wrap this up. Well, one of the other neat things about this hilt design is it does really have a beautiful sort of chromed finish to it as well. So I put these in order so that hopefully I put them back in the right order. All right, there's a very loud bird nearby. You guys can probably hear that too.